Valley Center City Council meeting for April 18th, 2023 is now in session. Roll call.
Mayor Cicerillo.
Here.
Councilmember Sam. Here. Councilmember Evans.
Here.
Councilmember Bass.
Here.
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Gregory.
Here.
Councilmember Kurtzetter.
Here.
Councilmember Wilson.
Here.
Councilmember Colbert.
Present.
Please rise for the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know, I'm Levi Massey. I'm the youth pastor over at Life Point Church. More recently, what I like to be addressed as is I'm the husband of Mrs. Massey, who was our Kansas Teacher of the Year award nominee for Valley Center. Until you realize I'm also Bobby Massey's son, which then forfeited immediately, right? Hey, let's pray real quickly. God, I thank you so much for the leaders represented in this room and the community that they represent. I pray tonight you would just grant them all discernment, that they would have grace and patience for one another. As your word says, they would be quick to listen, slow to speak. And as they guide our community into the new things that are coming in, the new people coming in, God, I just pray that you would bless it, have favor on us. Thank you for our town. It is a blessing. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. He definitely looks like his father. All righty. Item 5, approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hands. Motion carries. Thank you. The administration agenda, the city council meeting minutes of April 4th, 2023.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of April 4th, 2023, regular council meeting as presented. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hands. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving on to presentations and proclamations. Yes, we have some proclamations tonight, 3 to be exact. The first one on our list is the Arbor Day proclamation. This has been ongoing now for as long as I've been on the city council, so I'm not sure how much longer, I guess almost as long as Arbor Day, I guess we've been doing it here. So whereas, whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable source, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. Now, therefore, I, Lou Cicerillo, Mayor of Valley Center, Kansas, do hereby proclaim April 28th, 2023 is Arbor Day in the city of Valley Center. And I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees and promote the well-being of this and future generations. All right. The next one I have to read is for National Library Week. Whereas libraries are accessible and inclusive places that foster a sense of connection and build a community, and whereas libraries connect people to technology, providing access to broadband internet, computers, and training that are critical for accessing education and employment opportunities, and whereas libraries offer opportunities for everyone to connect with new ideas and become their best selves through access to multimedia content, programs, and classes, in addition to books. And whereas today's libraries and their services extend far beyond the four walls of the building, and everyone is welcome to use their resources. And whereas in times of crisis, libraries and library professionals play an invaluable role in supporting the community both in person and virtually. And whereas libraries strive to develop and maintain programs and collections that are as diverse as the populations they serve and ensure equity of access for all. And whereas to adapt to our changing world, libraries are expanding their resources and continuing to meet the needs of their patrons. And whereas libraries have long served as trusted and treasured institutions for all members of the community, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or socioeconomic statuses. And whereas libraries are cornerstones of democracy, promoting the free exchange of information and ideas for all. And whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers are joining library supporters and advocates across the nation to celebrate National Library Week. Now, therefore, I, Lou Cicerello, Mayor of the City of Valley Center, do hereby proclaim April 23rd to the 29th, 2023 as the City of Valley Center's National Library Week and encourage all citizens to connect with their library, visiting in person or online to access resources and services. In witness thereof, I thereunto set my hand and cause the great seal of the City of Valley Center to be affixed this 18th day of April in the year 2023. And last, but not certainly least, proclamation for Administrative Professionals Day. Whereas administrative professionals play an essential role in coordinating the office operations of businesses, government, educational institutions, and other organizations. And whereas administrative professionals are vital contributors in today's team-oriented work environment and are key frontline public relation ambassadors for their organizations. And whereas the work of administrative professionals today requires advanced knowledge and expertise in communications, computer software, office technology, project management, organization, customer service, and other vital office manager responsibilities, and most importantly, have the willingness to learn and accept new challenges. And whereas Administrative Professionals Day is observed annually in workplaces around the world to recognize the important contributions of administrative support staff. Whereas the city is extremely proud of our talented and highly skilled administrative professional staff and officially recognize and appreciate their hard work, support, and continued professional growth. And now, therefore, I, Lou Cicerello, Mayor of the City of Valley Center, do hereby proclaim April 26, 2023 as the City of Valley Center's Administrative Professionals Day. Encourage all employers within the City of Valley Center to recognize and appreciate their administrative support staff. In witness whereof, I to set my hand and cause the great seal of the City of Valley Center to be affixed this 18th day of April in the year 2023. All righty. Okay, we're going to move along to the public forum. This is the time of the meeting that we allow anybody here in the audience that would like to speak to an item that is not on the agenda. Seeing none, we do have appointments today for the Planning and Zoning Board. I have two appointments. They're both reappointments. Steve Conway with a reappointment with term ending in April of 2026, and Brian Shelton, reappointment with the term ending in April of 2026. If there's no objections to either one of those councils, it could be made in one motion.
Move to approve reappointments of both.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hands. Motion carries. Moving on to old business, ordinance 1387-23, rezone property at 145 North Meridian. Mr. Schrack.
Good evening, everyone. Again, this is the second reading of the rezoning ordinance. Stand for any questions that the council may have.
I already asked Brian.
Questions, council? Motion?
Make a motion for the adoption of ordinance 1387-23 to rezone 145 North Meridian from R1B to C1 for second reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hands. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-2.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to new business. Approval of change order for Lions Park pool parking lot and site improvements.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Happy April. Before you is a change order request. This is for the parking lot of the Lions Park pool. I know if anybody's driven over there over the last, how long has it been there? 50 years. It's a little bit of a narrow entrance and a little bit of a narrow exit. And the entire surface of the parking lot itself really needs to be looked at and addressed. In the beginning, if you do recall, we did decide to have this pulled out. We are going to use not sales tax funds for this portion of the project because it does benefit the entire park, as well as the pickleball courts that we transition the basketball courts to, sidewalks. So there's actually sidewalks that then connect to the pool and that connect then to the new pickleball courts. We did decide to use road funds for this. And so that's why, if you remember, we scaled back on the mill and overlays for this year, but we're still able to accomplish a lot throughout the community and use funds, $100,000 and some change here, $113,000 out of the streets budget for this expense, part of the project. One of these items, that we're kind of pulling out, that we're trying to then save all the funds that we can towards the real intended purpose of those sales tax dollars and those sales tax funds for Lions Park pool renovations, splash pad, and then also then the new rec and aquatic facility up to the north. So that is why this is coming to you as a change order. And if Todd had anything to add, sure, Stan. Come on up here, Todd. Sorry, we're on air for all the viewers.
We'll stand for any questions that you have about this or the process of how we got to the number.
Councilmember Anderson.
I have a question for Mr. Clark. This is coming from streets budget. Is that the same pot of money that we use for mill and overlay? What is our annual budget for mill and overlay? We know that. I didn't mean to put anybody on the spot, but okay.
It's been like that longer.
So we're
'cause
stealing
that
a
was the
third
number.
of our mill and overlay. I just want to be on record to say I don't like that we're continually having to push off mill and overlay because I think our streets show it, and I think that's one of the maintenance items in the city that needs to be pushed to the top. It's continually getting pushed to the side. I know last year cost increase. We had to dump part of our planned mill and overlay on the north side. This is a very needed part of this project, but I don't like that we keep pushing mill and overlay of our residential streets off to steal from. So at some point, we're going to have to focus on that because our mill and overlay maintenance is getting worse and worse as far as the upkeep on it. And I just want to be on record to say that we need to make that a priority in the future. So maybe next year we get some more money into that we're not touching for other projects.
Yes, absolutely, Councilmember Anderson. And if you recall, previously, prior to July 2019, 2020, really, that streets fund I think was used maybe a handful of times for mill and overlays. Otherwise, it was mainly used for panel replacements, small patches, and slurry seal of the roads that really didn't do anything for the roads. And so we really have transitioned to a different thought process and actually started doing large mill and overlays, not on just the main corridors, but actually in residential areas since 2019, 2020. So We will absolutely continue to do that this coming year. We do intend to do 2nd Street from Sheridan all the way to the train tracks, as well as finish up Meadow and that area as well. And then try to kind of clean up some of the areas on the west side of the tracks before then we move to the east side of the tracks. And so then the next year following, so next year will be Elm, Hickory, and some of those. So, yeah, absolutely understand and appreciate your concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Kerstetter.
I agree with Mr. Anderson on this as far as rediverting funds. We kind of knew about this need, but it wasn't in the original project. And I get needing to put it into different buckets or pull from different buckets of money, okay? So why not have this as a whole project, one bucket of money for the pool, okay, and then another bucket coming for this, and then we could have figured out sooner and already approved this part of the project. I don't think you're not following me, are you?
Well, and so if you recall, we did change order in and did the engineering services to come up with a site plan for the Lions Park parking lot with the sidewalks and those things that were separate, then adding it to the fees. No, if you just don't want to pay some of the fees sometimes for other projects that have higher percentage overall fees for engineers, architects, and those things to tack on a project like the sales tax.
Okay.
And so that's why, it was my recommendation to keep that as a separate area and then slide it in.
That's fine. I was just, if we knew that this needed to be done, why didn't we just have it all in one package deal and we don't have to be talking right now about a change order and just pull from two different buckets of money, basically?
It was more just for the coordination efforts, with the, general contractor on site to help administer through their competitive bid process versus us going and doing, sealed RFPs for this project alone.
So if we decide not to approve this change order, do we just leave it as is, basically?
Yes.
Okay. Or if we decide to do a cheaper option, whatever that might be, is there another option?
We're gonna have them price out doing a milled overlay in the current area, and leave the curbs and not have sidewalks.
Okay.
Councilmember Bass.
He actually asked most of what I was going to ask. So what exactly is preventing us from using the sales tax money, like specifically?
Just overall, how much that overall project is,
Okay.
and being able to pull, another $100,000, especially for the Lions Park pool renovation.
Yeah.
That side of the overall sales tax funds.
And that's all coming out of the same sales tax, right? And our sales tax is coming in way more than what we.
Correct.
But the rec center is also is going to cost way more too.
Yes, absolutely. So try and juggle that. If you recall, we weren't able to afford the splash pad in Lions Park for this pool season due to cost. And so, trying to pull, as much, other resources and other pots of funds available for these areas, just like, with Neil's crew, installing the bathroom partitions and, hanging the lighting and scrubbing the slide and doing armor all on those things, trying to pull as much as we can to then save money in other areas to then put towards the ultimate goal, which the citizens voted on, which was actual recreation and aquatic facility.
Well, if this passes, will this prevent any currently planned mill and overlay projects or any other projects that are currently scheduled? Thank you.
Councilmember Kerstetter.
Sorry, I had another question. Could we, so this line item is budgeted $300,000 a year. And that's how much we have. We have enough to cover this cost and then whatever else we have covered or scheduled. Is there any other extra funds in this fund? Any extra money in that fund or just?
Line item.
Thank you, line item.
Yep.
Or is it just what we budgeted?
And so also too, as Barry comes up, remember we are doing the signal lights out of this fund as well.
Okay.
On Meridian and 5th Street. We just got a a notice today or email, that they weren't working, I guess, correctly this morning again. So those, switch out is well overdue. And so, yeah, those areas are getting done, but I'll wait for Mr. Smith.
Yeah, so this line item is funded by that 1% sales tax from Sedgwick County that we get each year. And we do that flat line, 300,000 baseline. It could come in more, it could come in even, could come in less. Last couple of years, we've been blessed to have it come in a little bit higher than what we've anticipated. So if it does come in over, we just say that and roll over to the next year to apply to
Okay.
the next delivery.
So we're not going to go into the red with all, okay. That was basically my question.
Councilmember Anderson.
I had a follow-up and then a comment. I didn't remember seeing, will this be completed before the pool season is open? Okay. My comment is then, I am for getting this done, and I understand the time it takes to try to bid out to multiple people. I understand we're more than likely competitive with what we've got. And I think the most important thing is to get this open in the time that we said we would open this without having any kind of delay or big mess with trying to do that while the pool is open or waiting till after the season. So I didn't want to misconstrue my thoughts. I want to make sure that we have mill and overlay gets put on the front burner, but I'm also very much for getting this done in the time that we have to get it put in.
So we did already competitively bid this out, and because it's not approved yet, at this particular second, we won't announce who was our low bidder, but we did receive 3 complete bids, one that was incomplete, and scoped them out, and they have a good scope. And we have been in conversation with them. They are prepared to mobilize that second week of May and get it knocked out and ready for Memorial Weekend.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Councilmember Bass.
Oops.
Turn them on, I turn them off.
Both of you stop. It's like a little light show up here. I want to echo what Vince said. I'm not a fan of how we're paying for it, but it sounds like it is much needed infrastructure, especially with the ADA implications. So if we're going to do it right, let's do it right the first time.
Absolutely. And we are, just so the council knows, we took proactive steps in moving the dumpsters and some of those things, so there won't be trash trucks that are going through, creating some of those big holes and divots that you've seen kind of right in the front entrance as you drive in straight. I mean, there's a kind of a pool of water that sits there that's actually from a trash truck. And so, those things are being, those measures are being accounted for. So then this does last as long as it possibly can with just an overlay. So basically on the far, on the entrance, as you go south, the west curb line, that will be widened. The east curb line will stay there. And so don't think that we're redoing the entire parking lot as far as all the curbs and all those things, because we're not. We're doing that as affordable as possible. Adding the sidewalk on the west so it actually connects to a sidewalk so you can actually walk to the pool. And then also doing the mill and overlay in the parking lot stalls themselves. The parking lot or the parking stalls will actually add legal handicap stalls by the pickleball courts, and then grind that curb, re-pour that curb, and have a pad there so it's ADA compliant to then go to the pickleball courts. And then on the east entrance there, or exit, I should say, the south curb line is the only curb line that will be removed and re-poured, and then a mill and overlay done there. So just kind of wanted to let you know that it's not a complete tear out and replacement. We can't afford that. And so this will be a great solution to those needs. The current sidewalk that you see there, that's on the far, that's along the south side, on the north side of the pool, on the south side of the parking lot. That will remain there. There's nothing wrong with that sidewalk and curb. Yep, and we also are doing the one on the far west end of the park, right off of Abilene and Allen. So if you've seen kind of around the Lions sculpture there, that actually there's little trails that people create because there's no sidewalks actually from the road to get onto the sidewalk. There's no actual sidewalk, and so we did put that into this this project as well. Those are one of those items that, bidding out by itself, just the cost per, per yard and per square foot is just outrageous. So it's easier to put it into larger projects like this one.
Anybody else?
Motion of approval of change order in the amount of $113,974.98 for Lions Park Pool, parking lot, and site improvements, and authorize mayor or city administrator to sign.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hands. Motion carries. Thank you. Item B, approval of GMP for bid package number 1 for Aquatic and Fitness Center.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Here before you is now getting into the first bid packet for the new Valley Center Aquatics and Fitness Center. Jake and Todd with McCown Gordon will be coming up here to go over all the details, but this is what the committee, we have committee members on that represent the city council on the pool and recreation or pool and aquatic subcommittee. This is what we've been working on for the last several months on coming up with really the first large bid packet with the pre-engineered metal building and the electrical gearbox, and they will go into more detail behind me, and I will stand for questions after that.
Thank you, Brent. Mayor, council members. Today, we have a GMP amendment number 1, and I understand this is the first construction manager at risk, first GMP process, so it's a little bit new. It's not your traditional bid letting, design it, bid it, build it. So we want to take a little bit of extra time here and just explain the deliverable that you have in front of you and just go over the process, and then we want this to be interactive, so please ask questions. What you've got before you is GMP amendment number 1. So we've identified some very long lead items that we wanted to get ordered so that we could get started on the project as soon as possible. So those 2 items are the pre-engineered metal building, the engineering, furnishing it, and erecting it, and then the purchase of this electrical switchgear. And then the associated bond, insurance, general conditions, things like that are just percentages of the project. We've worked with Gary from Schaefer Architecture and his team to really get the feedback from the community that Schaefer sent the surveys out. We got responses. We worked hand in hand with the steering committee, with Brent, and really tried to take all the wants of the community and get that to as many of those as we could inside the box, if you will. We have, pardon me, lost my notes here. Like I said, we've continued to work with Brent and the steering committee to help develop this. But what we are asking for at the end of the day is to approve the GMP Amendment 1 package that will allow us then to start the final engineering on the pre-engineered metal building and then procure the electrical switchgear, because as you're seeing here, we do have some very long lead items in excess of 1 year, and we'd like to get those ordered. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jake Oberlechner. He's with our pre-construction team, and he'll go through this amendment for you guys.
Thanks, Todd. So we reached out to the market approximately 2.5 weeks ago, and on bid day last week, we received a total of 4 bids for the pre-engineered metal building, and then we received a total of 3 bids for the electrical geared package. So overall, we were pretty pleased with the bid results we got. We spent about 2 or 3 days scoping everybody out, making sure everybody was apples to apples. So overall, we were extremely pleased. Our GMP for this bid package 1, as Todd alluded to, is $3,692,137. I did want to note a couple alternates that we had priced out on the deliverable. So alternate number 1 This adds an additional clear coat of protection. This is in the natatorium. It's on the inside face of those insulated wall panels. So this will just provide an additional clear coat of protection. In that natatorium, you got a little bit harsher conditions, chemicals. So this just provides another layer of protection. We don't need a decision today. This is something we can tack on in the final bid package when we bid the rest of the project out. And then the second alternate up there you see, so our base bid electrical gear, the current lead time is 72 weeks. This was another bid we had received, and as you can see, it had a little bit better lead time of 49 weeks. So with this one, I think we can get gear there about 8 to 9 weeks sooner. But with this option, no electrical gear supplier is going to guarantee that at all. We've seen some projects where they've said 49 weeks and it turns out to be 1 month previous, 2 months or 3 months. So no one's going to guarantee that date with the current market. And then the next item I wanted to clarify a little bit here is the pre-engineered materials escalation allowance you see up there. And I'll let Todd jump in on this one because he's done this on a previous project for the city of Manhattan. So.
Thanks, Jake. I think everybody knows material pricing has been all over the map the last couple of years. And one of the ways that we've tried to combat this in a transparent and fair manner is to do some allowances for escalation. When a pre-engineered building is ordered, they typically order it from the steel mill directly. They'll order their flat stock and then they fabricate every column, every secondary framing member, everything. They fabricate it in their plant, but they don't lock in their pricing with their supplier until 60 days prior to fabrication. So there's two ways that they can guarantee a price. They can either do what we're doing here and tying it to a steel index, which is all public information, so we can track it. It's very transparent. You can see if it goes up or down, or they just throw enough money on it to cover it. Obviously, they have some risk associated with that because it could go very high and they could potentially lose money. It could go down and they could make a lot of money. So we didn't feel like that was the best approach. We have used this. I've personally used this with the city of Manhattan on their joint maintenance facility. And that was, we had about a $500,000 allowance. It was about a 70,000 square foot building. And we tracked it every other week at the owner meeting, and we're able to see how much of that allowance was going to be utilized. And ultimately, about a month before we ordered, the steel market started to nosedive. And we wound up spending $18,000 out of that $472,000 allowance. So it worked out very well for everybody. The city didn't spend extra money that they didn't need to. The pre-engineered supplier was very happy with the way that went because they didn't just throw money on it to cover themselves. And you can kind of see here that we've given a for instance, so this $1,400,464, that is the amount from our supplier that would be subject to this index. When they priced it, it was $1,400 a ton. So we gave two examples. One is if it goes up $50 a ton, you can see that adds or utilizes about $50,000 of that allowance. On the flip side of that, if the market goes down, there's actually a credit back. So it's a two-way street. It's not just an add, it could be a deduct as well. So not only would you not spend that allowance, but you'd also get a credit back to the project. So I know that this is a lot of information to take in, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has on this, either now or in the future. But we just felt like this was something that was fair to all parties. This was something that was transparent, and this was something that really managed costs and kept people from just adding on to cover escalation. So that's kind of the story behind this portion of it.
And yes, there's an app to watch the pricing. So I've seen it. I'm like, ooh, this is going to be fun. So I'm sorry, I wanted to put that.
And then I just list out my kind of standard inclusions and exclusions. I won't read through all of them, but if there's any questions on that, please let me know. And then I just wanted to point out, we did include a couple schedules. So the first schedule there, that's our base bid schedule with the electrical gear that we have included in our base bid. So this is the 72-week lead time item. And as you can see, that would put an owner move-in date around December 6th of 2024. And then on the flip side, the alternate price would put an owner move-in date of October 9th of 2024. So me and Todd will stand by for questions.
Council, I do have a couple. Let's talk about the alternates for a second. Let's talk about alternate one. The additional code of protection, in my mind, sounds like something that we probably should, considering we're expecting this building to last quite a long time. Again, I'll leave that, that'll be left up to the council, but I think that might be an addition that may be wiser to do now at this point. I'm kind of concerned about, or not concerned, I'm kind of confused about alternate two. You've called out Square D specifically in that, as opposed to what? Or is it just, I mean, I know there's multiple companies, so, but because you called Square D out specifically in that, comparing it to what?
Right. So there's three main electrical gear suppliers. That's Siemens, Eaton, and then Square D. Typically, Square D is a little bit more pricey. What I've seen. Siemens still has an equal package to Square D. This option it goes from 72 weeks to 49 weeks, so you get it quicker.
Yeah.
However, they won't guarantee it. It'll show up in 49
Okay.
weeks.
Like I said, I got it when you explained it the first time, but I couldn't think of what else you were comparing it to until you spit them both out. And then of course they both came into my head. Okay. Those are the questions I had. Councilmember Anderson.
What was the time difference? I know we weren't 100% locked in, but what was our realized time difference going to be if we did add that second bid package? It was 100,000.
So the switchgear gets there sooner. So
Right.
if you can flip to the second schedule on there, the alternate schedule. There we go. So at some point, anything that's in red is critical path. That means if it moves one day, then your schedule pushes out one day. Well, at some point, you can move enough things off of critical path that something else will be on there. In this case, it's the mechanical equipment, and you see the lead times there associated with that. You're running about 9 months. So then now that becomes your critical path item, and that becomes your driver. So the net result, even though you can get it in 49 weeks, you're only going to net about 8 or 9 weeks on the project.
Okay.
Even though on paper, you're getting your switchgear 21 weeks or 23 weeks sooner. So there, at some point, something else drives the schedule. And in this case, it was the mechanical equipment.
So we're looking at about $100,000 more for a 2-month time savings. This may be for Barry, does that cost us more if our project goes out 2 more months? Does it cost us any more in interest? What does that cost us do we know what it costs per day for this past an initial time? Or I'm trying to look at, is it worth the value to do that? Not just in we want the building sooner world, but.
Do some work on that one, but it'd also be up to the contractors and their conditional fees and things like that based on the timeline of things. So that's the question we'd have to ask and get it all line item down.
So there could be a cost savings to us that would be a wash for some of that money that it's going to cost us to. Correct. I mean, does my question make sense to anyone?
Potentially, but I don't want to guarantee anything like that.
I mean, I understand we don't have anything right now, but there is cost savings to having it done earlier for the city.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. That was my general question for that. And I have some more after. I'll let Dale go
And-
first.
Oh, you can go. You can continue.
I got.
And my only
Go ahead.
concern,
Let's continue.
with that is that it's potential.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
you're rolling the dice on $107,000 of potentially
Potential.
getting it earlier. And that's not saying that there's anything else, that wouldn't potentially have, long lead times as we get, farther down the road here.
Sure.
In this overall project. So, I mean, from my standpoint, I mean, I'd rather, save the 100,000 and, put it somewhere else as we just discussed earlier, but.
All right, Councilmember Kerstead.
I agree with you. I think we should save the $100,000 and just wait a little bit longer since it's maybe an 8-week savings and maybe not, because they can't guarantee that 49-week schedule. So let's back up to overall project cost of $3.1 million. Where's that money coming from? As far as it's coming from our tax, right? We don't have that in that account yet, do we?
No, and so, of course, if you pass this tonight and those things, I mean, we don't get an invoice tomorrow that we're paying on. And so really the approval on this, and this is one of the reasons why we decided to go with this approach on this project, like many of the school districts do, is to then, this authorizes then for that next step to really fully engineer the building from the manufacturer, correct? And then, so the actual first payment won't be, potentially until August, September. Barry and I are working with bond counsel on seeing when we can start issuing temp notes, or depending upon the interest rate, if we should just, fully, bond the project right away. And so, those are things that we're looking at. But remember, that's kind of one of the reasons why we waited a year for the collection of the sales tax revenue, to then really have a little bit of cash on hand to be paying for the bills that we're currently accruing, as well as not paying a tremendous amount more of
Interest?
Wow, interest. Yes, pay a lot more interest than needed. So by the time we're done, with the financing side, we're not going to be locking in a 15-year bond. It'll be a 10-year bond, even though the sales tax will still sunset. Absolutely guarantee will sunset. By the 15 years, if not earlier, if the bonds are paid off. And so it doesn't. I don't know if that answers any of your question, but
It does. I think I know the answer to this question, but whenever we have to pay this whole lump sum and once, right? We just have to figure out how to pay for it with that, what you just said.
Yep,
correct?
either issue, temp notes,
Okay.
or we'll be, bonding it at that time or close to that time.
Okay, and then
Of course, in all the documents, if you, sit and read, every word, like I know Councilmember Gregory does, then, you'll see that, the time the invoice is issued to the time that we have to pay it, usually 60 to 90 days in some cases. So,
Okay.
So there's some lead time there that we are discussing with bond counsel as well.
one more question that's not for you, Mr. Clark. It's for,
Absolutely. Thank
yeah.
you.
Is this building, how you're presenting it, is it expandable if we want to expand the?
Yes, it's
Facility.
expandable in multiple different directions.
All right, perfect.
So we've taken into account some future expansion to the south, to the east, on both portions of that.
So since it's been a while, hey, there's a diagram. Remind me, is this a single story or a 2-story facility?
So a little bit of both. Primarily, it's single story. There is a mechanical mezzanine that makes I don't want to say a FEMA shelter, but a storm shelter that's highlighted in that maroon color. I think that's maroon on the top of the page. So, yep, right there. So that's where the family restroom and then the men's and women's locker rooms are.
Okay.
So that has a concrete lid on top, masonry walls, concrete floor.
Okay.
And there's mechanical equipment above that. So no public access up there.
Okay, I was just curious what we were getting basically.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councilmember Anderson.
My questions are now for Mr. Clark and probably Mr.
Smith.
Smith. Thank you. I have some general questions before we pass this. What is our total approximation estimate right now for this building?
For this building?
For the project,
overall
for this project?
Site, sorry, that's,
Well, you can break, I'm going to break that out too.
yes.
What is our total cost sitting at right now? We were at, what was our initial price? I know it's gone up, but I want to discuss that because I want to make sure we know everything that's going in it and we are able to afford this.
Yes, absolutely. And so originally back in 2020, when this endeavor started in Lions Park, when we were looking at that site and building out that facility, we were roughly $10.5 million in the 2020 dollars. Now with moving the site, that 10.5, I would say probably did not include all the engineering fees, architect fees, those types of contingencies, I would say. Now moving it to the north, with the costs now that we have known costs, fees 5.5% here and there, 6% for the aquatic side. We're right at that, overall all in about 20 to 21 million.
Okay. And that includes redoing the park, the pool at the park, correct? Or is that not including that?
Yes.
Okay.
That is.
And that includes the land acquisition,
Yes.
architectural fees or architect fees, architectural engineering. What about interest?
No.
Okay, so we're at 25. I just want to know what we're generating and what we're going to pay per year and make sure we're not overextended because I am been one of the biggest proponents of this whole thing, but at the same time, we will lose our credibility very fast with the community if we're not careful with it. And I know it's because of everything's more expensive, but.
So yeah, that 21.5 number does not include the pool. But when you add that in, you gotta remember, we're taking the pool back out because we're paying for that all in cash.
Okay.
Because we have that money built up right now.
Okay, so that's
Pool,
done on the side. Okay,
pool, the land acquisition, all that will be taken care of what we currently have in the bank. So right there, you can take off the 1.5, 1.6 ranges off the top there. So that drops it. Down to, yeah,
20 million.
19's right there. So generally on a 20-year bond, you can plan on anywhere from 20 to 30% interest on that. We've never done a 10-year bond, so I'm not 100% sure. But when we talked to our financial advisors the other day, is that interest rates were dropping down around that 3% range. So I would imagine it'd be closer to that 20% range in interest over that same time period. So we're trying to figure out with them, we're trying to figure out ways to structure this the correct way to make sure we can afford everything. So we haven't heard back from them yet, but we are anticipating that very soon.
all right, two questions. I'll ask you first since you're standing at the mic. Are you comfortable with this, where we're at right now? Numbers wise, with starting this part of the project?
Starting this part of the project?
Yes. Okay.
I'm just curious to see what Dustin and Clayton come back with.
Okay, and my follow-up then would be for Brent is what gets cut if we're not looking like we're going to be within what we need to be for our numbers?
The easiest part to cut first would be the gymnasium.
Okay.
Off
I'm not that we have to, but I mean, that's something we have to look at if.
Yep, absolutely. And that would be, a contingency plan, that could easily save 2.3, 2 to 3.
Because we can add that on the easiest
Yes.
down the road.
Well,
I mean, I don't want to do that because
right.
it never gets done.
And the splash pad as well.
Okay.
So the splash pad, we have in roughly in that overall total budget estimated 650,000. And so, if we need to, pull that back and do some of those things, I mean, we sure can.
Okay. Fantastic.
And also too, do want to make sure everyone's clear. Like I said last time when we purchased agreed to purchase, execute that contract to purchase a property, that is not all sales tax funds. And so, that will be replenished by either developers, by city portions. But that the overall sales tax is buying the initial $600 and some odd $1,000 of property. But once it's all said and done, the sales tax will only purchase the property that the recreation and the aquatic center itself and future expansion sit on.
Okay.
Want to make sure we're clear on that.
Thank you, all of everyone that answered my questions.
Councilmember Bass.
Don't need you. Yeah. So with our increased sales tax that are coming in,
Yes, sir.
what was our original projection for that? Is it 10 years and then it sunsets? Is that what-
15.
15. So what was our initial projection before we started collecting it? And now what is our projection of collecting sales tax over 15 years?
Still 15.
No,
Total
dollars.
amount of
Dollars.
tax, that 1%.
Oh, total amount of sales
Yeah.
tax that will be generated?
Right, we got 1% sales tax going towards this project, correct? So what are we anticipating to bring in over 15 years? What did we originally, and then what are we now anticipating?
I've looked at a lot of numbers.
Yeah.
I think it's 14, 15 million.
Yeah, originally we were projecting about 450,000 a year on the sales tax side. That has increased to around that 900,000 number.
Okay.
And then the 2 mills from the rec is around 360 to 380-ish around there. So about 1.2 to 1.4 range based upon the variance in the sales tax rate.
So about 16 million total, roughly. Where's if this does end up costing 20,
Sales tax.
the sales tax,
Yes.
right?
So total all in with both, that we forecast out or that Barry's forecast out, is around that 22 to 24 million
Okay.
total overall. And that's without any, that's with just, conservative increases from the county side when it comes to property valuations, as well as sales tax, conservatively budgeting that as well.
Councilmember Colbert.
I don't know how to state this, but I'm going to do it anyhow. I've noticed in the last 2 months, there's more negative results from the community about having the place. And myself personally, I'm in favor of the thing totally because that brings business north. About time. But beside that, is there any way possible that we can get the information out to the community instead of waiting until a meeting or something? If, what plans or a switch or something, leave them know ahead of time.
Councilmember Colbert, so our meetings for the Pool and Recreation Committee, that's why we do have that 13-member subcommittee. That's a separate one that's televised right here in this room. There's a meeting actually tomorrow night at 6 p.m. that we do have a lot of viewers that do watch or go back and watch. We post things, the full packets on our website. If we don't have the full packet right away, because sometimes there's information that gets here a little late, then it's usually up within a day or two. I know this last one, unfortunately, I had COVID, and so I forgot for a week. And so Mr. Strunk reminded me of that. And so that one was up shortly after that. But I do feel that we do have a lot of support for this project as well. When you look at the sales tax at the passage, the percentage that Neil guessed right on the head, Neil, was what again? 65%, 68, I believe, voter approval. And so I know it's taken a while. Sales tax projects do take a while. Once you get everything into it, you don't want to build something, inadequate or overspend as well. So, we have done our due diligence. I feel confident and comfortable in those numbers. And I do feel comfortable and confident that we can afford this project. I don't see why we wouldn't. What's not accounted for this either is any fundraising. I've said the entire time from the beginning, even before the sales tax passed, that $2 million will be fundraised towards this project, if not more. And so, the fundraising efforts will begin as soon as we get that renderings and some walkthrough videos from some folks that we've been hounding them on from the committee. Your committee members here that do sit on council also too have been advocates in the public, Councilmember Colbert, and so I do feel like we have been getting the information out.
But the public doesn't feel that you did.
They can always call me on my cell phone. I give it every day.
So there's another suggestion then. Why can't we have, say, in 3 months from now, have a public forum for where they can come and find out exactly for themselves of what is being done. And then 3 months later, another one, 3 months later, another one till.
And so we did have the survey, the community survey that went out. Those results were available for everybody. They're still available for everybody on the website. Town hall meetings. So as soon as we have the virtual walkthroughs, now I guarantee you, I will absolutely post those on all social media accounts, and it will get out to the public, as well as I know I've spoken to the senior association, the senior lunches. I've talked to the Lions Club and various other organizations throughout the course of the last year, if not 6 months.
I'm just trying to figure some way that it can be, that people don't get upset when they hear that there's a change to the program or something of that nature. And they call everybody else and pick up the phone. And next thing I know, I got 6 or 7 phone calls saying, you guys don't know what you're doing. You're a dummy, blah, blah, blah. So,
Yeah, and always please direct them to me if need be. We can have some print materials to set out here on the counter if that helps you, to reach those folks that are on social media.
I'm just trying to.
Nope, appreciate the thoughts.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Councilmember Kerstetter.
I was talking about the 1% sales tax that we voted on. I could have swore there was a dollar amount on that when we voted on it, not just a sunset clause.
Initially?
The initial one.
No, and so the information provided has estimates, but in the actual sales tax language itself, it just says for recreation and aquatic complex for a maximum not to exceed 15 years, and it had the date of that.
But okay.
So it didn't have a dollar. I mean, you would never have a dollar amount on a sale on the actual ballot.
Okay. I'd like to see it again. If you have a PDF copy, you can send me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I could have swore we had one on there. That's all I got.
Anybody else? Councilmember Anderson?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to push that. I was just going to make a motion.
Okay, doke.
I move to approval of GMP in bid package number 1 in the amount of $3.692137 million and authorize mayor or city administrator to sign.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, I appreciate the conversation. Councilmember Colbert, I thoroughly understand what you were saying here. I'm not sure much more we could do, but maybe we do have once we get something tangible, that we do a little something and have people come in and show them and ask questions. One night, I've heard it like everybody else has probably heard it. We definitely are not in the business of not being transparent. And if it takes us having to all sit here and let people come and look at it and ask us questions, then maybe we need to do that. So it's not a bad idea. Councilmember Anderson.
Before we vote on this, I do want to echo kind of what you're saying. The problem is the people that want to be involved are involved and they're aware of what's going on. They're involved with the committees. We are always going to have the outliers that just complain no matter what we do. I hear it every day as well. On the flip side, I hear people that are very engaged with it and are very excited about the move. I've heard quite a bit of positive feedback about where it got moved to because we were going to ruin our Lions Park. I understand exactly what you're saying, Councilmember Colbert, but there are usually the loudest ones are the ones that are negative. So believe me, there's a lot of supporters out there. And if we had to wait for everyone to vote unanimously, we would never get anything done in this city. So that was all I had.
Do we have a motion? We do have a motion and a second on the floor. Do we want to discuss that additional alternative 1 at this point? I know we don't need to at this time.
Sure. When do we need to have that decision made?
60 days before fabrication.
I'm in favor of doing it, but we can table it for right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. All in favor, raise your hands.
Hard part. 3 million.
Yeah, it is. Motion carries.
But you don't have to vote.
I did it if it was a tie.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right. Next item is item C, ordinance 1388-23, speed limit within the Cedar Ridge subdivision.
Drink some
Good
more
evening,
water.
Mayor and Council. 2 weeks ago, council asked staff to come back with an ordinance setting the speed limit within Cedar Ridge Development subdivision at 20 miles an hour. So tonight I'm presenting that ordinance for first reading, and I'll stand for any questions.
Questions? Councilmember Kerstetter.
Have we heard from the developer if they remind me, they didn't care, right?
They didn't care.
Okay, all right, sorry. As I'm asking the
They didn't
question,
care.
I
They didn't
remember the
care.
answer.
We got
Good
it.
evening.
They didn't care.
No, yeah, the developer didn't have any concerns. I
right.
said that they would just listen to whatever the governing body so chooses.
Motion to approve ordinance 1388-23, which establishes a maximum speed limit of 20 miles per hour within the Cedar Ridge development for first reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Did you have,
He was asking a question.
he doesn't count.
I was seeing who make sure who seconded there. Sorry.
All in favor, raise your hands. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-2.
Thank
you. Item D, approval of change order for number 2 for Arbor Valley.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My item is not as glamorous as rec centers and pools. I'm requesting approval of a change order for additional project seeding on the Arbor Valley subdivision project. There's discrepancy on the erosion control plan quantity for the seeding called out and what was actually demoed and tore up on site. There was about 5 additional acres of seed that needed to be installed, so that was no aux cost for that.
Councilmember Kerstetter.
So this additional seating is for extra stuff that they didn't think they'd have to excavate, or is it just oversight on whoever?
Oversight on the plan. So there's 2 plan sheets.
And
One
who's
called out
For just one more question before you answer. Who did the planning?
JDO.
All right.
Basically, there's a plan sheet that showed erosion control and seeding, and another sheet that calls out the demo plan. You would think the erosion control and seeding would match up with the demo plan, but it did not quite match up.
Okay. Because this seems like it's the second change order that somebody's made a mistake like this.
So this one,
Or it feels like it, in my opinion.
yeah, there were a couple construction items on the previous change order that I had missed, and Brent presented that one. This one, if it was done right, the full amount would have been in the bid. It was just an underrun on the quantity, so it's making the quantity whole for the contractor.
And this is the phase 1 of this,
Correct.
right? So
Phase 2 is designed, but I haven't heard anything about bidding or
is it a total of 3 phases? Just 2? Okay. So I'm just anticipating how many more change orders we're going to have. Hopefully no more.
If you could do that, then we don't need to have them because you could just tell us what they're going to be.
Well, I just,
And so the developer, does intend to, build out the entire first phase before, moving to the second, or, as close as to, completing the entire first phase, then rolling right into the second. So kind of depends upon lot sales. Of course, if anyone's driven by, there will be some more additional berms and those things that will be added for some screening. The sign, the welcome sign for that area is getting installed as we speak. So really nice final product. And of course, this change order will get assessed and spread throughout the property. So.
Anybody else?
Move to approve Arbor Valley change order number 2 in the amount of $6,000 and authorize mayor or city administrator to sign.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hands. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to consent agenda.
motion to approve a consent agenda as presented.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, raise your hands.
All right.
Motion carries. All right, we're going to move on to staff reports. Mr. Schrack.
Good evening again. I have just two items tonight. The first one, on the bench this evening, I did leave each one of you a copy of our latest flood insurance assessment. Looks like this. It's a 2-page document back in front. This is part of the community rating system, the CRS program. As you're aware, the City of Valley Center does participate. This is a voluntary program as part of the National Flood Insurance Program, which we also participate in. Under CRS, this allows our residents to receive at this time a 15% discount off of their annual flood insurance premiums through our Class 7 designation. Every 5 years, we receive a cycle visit, and that cycle visit is in the process right now. And so I'm working with our CRS specialist that covers our region of the country on updating our documentation of the activities that we are engaged in to merit that Class 7 designation. So this updated flood insurance assessment is part of that 5-year cycle visit. So this includes information mainly on flood insurance policies that we do have within the city limits. So this does not include specific addresses. However, this does state how many policies are in effect, the premium, insurance in force, and of course the average coverage based on that based on those policies. So this is just providing you this information. This information is available in my office, so anyone in the public can get it as well. But again, just looking at here, approximately on the data that we received, this is current as of April 2nd of 2023. Approximately 1% of the buildings located in the special flood hazard area of the floodplain are currently covered by flood insurance. But again, for anyone watching, anyone on the bench, our CRS participation does again result in a 15% discount, which is wonderful for our residents that do have that coverage. But again, wanted to share that with you this evening. If you have any, I am trying to be brief here, so if you have any questions, please feel free to call or email me regarding this document. And then secondly, in case you didn't see on the city's Facebook page and social media, we do have an opening on the city's planning and zoning board. So this is one, we have 7 board members, 2 of which live outside the city limits, but within 3 limits of that boundary. This is for one of those out of city positions. So if you do know of anyone that lives within 3 miles of the city limits of Valley Center, would like to participate in the planning and zoning board, our terms are for 3 years, and we normally meet on the 4th Tuesday of the month. So those applications, there's a link to that as well. So they can fill out the board volunteer application form and submit those to Christy, our city clerk. That deadline is April 25th by 5 p.m. Again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to send them my way. And thank you.
Don't go anywhere.
Yes.
Councilmember Kerstetter has a question.
Regarding the flood insurance, if somebody was getting homeowners insurance, would this be an automatic thing that the insurance agent would have? Or would they have to contact you?
No, that's a great
and
question.
get the documentation?
So flood insurance policies are separate than the regular homeowners insurance. They can get that directly through the agent. I am not an insurance agent, but I do field questions on insurance, but I do not write policies, nor does the city issue any flood insurance policies. But no, they would get that policy directly from their, most agents are certified to write and issue flood insurance policies. Now, I have in the past, there have been instances where a insurance company does ask that I provide a letter. More than happy to do that. That just verifies that the city does participate in CRS and NFIP. So more than happy to do that, but no, they can get that in most cases directly from their insurance agent. But yes, definitely they want to ask and make sure that they are getting that CRS discount.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Owings.
Mayor and Council, not to belabor the discussions on our pool and rec projects any longer, I did want to give you a brief update on the Lions Park portion of this. And just let you know that things are moving along as scheduled. Long and short of it is they're anticipating turning it over to us being finished out of there May 12th. Plenty of time before the pool opens. We're getting at that point where we're starting to see some of the finishing touches come into play. Landscaping, irrigation's coming soon. Fencing is going to be very soon. They've got the vessel painted. My crew's going to be in there very shortly again, doing some more things. We've got the building, the main buildings getting ready to be painted soon. And those will be painted up by our group that did the water tower design, the brick mob. So anxious to see how they turn out there with some of the, bling, I guess, on the buildings with as you've seen with the water tower. So exciting things are happening over there. And if you get a chance, drive by. Stand for any questions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chief Newman.
Good evening once again, Mayor and Council. I only had a few things tonight. You probably saw a new face in the room tonight. With us tonight is Officer Landis Goodman. Brought him here, asked him to stop by. So if you get a chance after council, if you could introduce yourselves to him, maybe meet him. Also, I have the new fire department pickup outside. So if you have an opportunity, I'll be outside to show that off to you. And finally, I've included my first quarter report, so I'll stand for any questions.
Don't see any. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Eggleston.
Hopefully you all saw the post that the intersection of Ford and Dexter is open. Hopefully you've been able to drive it. I feel that it's been a great improvement to the ramp we had before. The cones to the south of there, you'll see the east and west portion is still open. You'll have to divert by. They're doing curb cuts for that Wyvern Street that goes on in the new Sunflower Valley. And to go back on the mill and overlay, your public works staff has been diligently researching sealing, road sealing, different procedures to do that. We are looking at one product that you're able to seal the road and not have to repaint all your striping. So that's a significant savings. It'll actually cure clear. So it'll seal the road and cure clear. So you won't have to do all that repainting. That's quite an expense.
Well, you need to make sure you paint them first then, and that way when we seal them, so the paint doesn't wear off, right?
Remember that.
Nice before we seal them in, at least.
It's called a Reclamite product, and actually kind of an emulsion type product, but it'll actually cure. So in there and preserve some of those melon overlays that we have been doing.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Shear. Mr. Arbuckle. Mr. Smith.
Just a few quick items. The first quarter financial report is in the staff reports for this meeting. So I'll say if you have any questions on that, all the dashboards and everything have been updated online. And also we were notified that we won our budget award for 2023 yesterday. So I got to put another medallion on the plaque back there. So I got 2 spots left for next.
Very cool. Thank you, sir.
You said that so matter of factly, like, yeah, we won another one.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I think we should give
Excuse me,
Barry and
just a
staff
minute.
round of applause.
I haven't called on you yet. I haven't called on you. Go back to your seat till I call on you. Mr. Clark.
I'll hold those thoughts, Mayor. So hopefully everybody saw today that we did have a brand new restaurant open in our community. So
get a chance to
E&J
get that.
Eatery did open on Main Street in the former Cottage Market building. So a few of us were able to enjoy it here for lunch. They're going to be open 11 to 7. So 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Tuesday through Friday and 9 to 2 on Saturday. So I want to make sure everybody knew that. So make sure to go and check them out. They have great desserts too. So I may or may not have sampled every one. Also, too, coming up this Saturday, it's Earth Day. So Earth Day, mark your calendars that aren't already marked. On Saturday, April 22nd. And actually, we have a Valley Center resident who is taking upon herself, not involved in any other organization, just a resident that wanted to help clean up Valley Center. Her name is Carol Harper. She is going to organize a group of anyone that wants to participate. I did leave a flyer up at the bench there for you in each one of your seats for a Valley Center Cleanup Day. This is going to be, again, this Saturday, April 22nd. 8:30 a.m. is when they're going to meet at the Main Street Coffee Shop. They're on 109, 109 West Main Street for your assignments. Main Street Coffee is donating refreshments to everybody that volunteers. So that's a good way to get out. 8:30 till noon is when hopefully the volunteer cleanup time will be. We're providing trash bags. I know that the Chamber of Commerce has donated, gloves and the picker upper, the the litter cleaner, gopher grab-ems and breaches or whatever you call them, to try to help her out as well. So she's really excited. You'll see more stuff posted on our Facebook page tomorrow with that information. But please let everybody know that we are going to have a Valley Center Cleanup Day on Earth Day this year, something that one of our local residents decided to do. So I will stay in for any more questions.
Don't see any. Thank you very much, sir. All right, we move on to governing body reports. I have nothing. Councilmember Stam? Councilmember Bass? No, I'm sorry, Councilmember Evans.
I have nothing.
Councilmember Bass?
Nothing from me.
That'll teach me for trying to do it by memory instead of looking at the list, okay? Councilmember Anderson?
Nothing, thank you.
Councilmember Gregory?
Nothing.
Councilmember Kerstetter?
Nothing.
Councilmember Wilson?
Nothing as well.
Councilmember Colbert?
Just one announcement on the legislative. They're out of session, but the mayor will, or not the mayor, the governor will be starting next week, reviewing all the bills that were rejected and see if they can be brought back up. Other than that, that's all we have on legislative. If there's no other business before the council, I'll make a motion that the meeting be adjourned.
Second?
I have a motion, a second to adjourn. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.